Powered by Virginia Radio.
I Said What I Said podcast. It's titled From the Surface. And a couple weeks ago in episode 2, we kind of talked about the start of, how I became a lesbian and some of the things that, you know, I went through during that era. I have Flo up here, and I really appreciate her for coming in. If she gets to catch this, thank you so much. And so tonight, I really want to dig into um, the my very first relationship, and how long it went on, and the things that I went through, and how it played a part in pretty much most of my relationships up until I became in my 30s, which is about 3 years ago. So, and then I might touch on, we're just going to see how it feels tonight, but I might touch on my very last as well and how I came out of that. But we talked about that a little bit last episode, so you're going to have to tap into that one, and catch that. So, as a teenager, I was at Hampton High School, Hampton Crabber, cheerleader, and a lot of people I feel like knew me to be cool. Somebody really didn't take a whole lot of extra. Um, I tried to have a guard up so that people I was approachable, but then it felt like they could come at me in any kind of way. But they knew that side. I was outspoken. I was very creative. Um, I just and I could be a wild card, and everybody knew that about me. But on the other end, I was actually in a situation in a relationship that wasn't just us, and it kind of controlled a lot of the things that I did as a kid and the way that I viewed things. And so I did touch on the girl that I was dealing with first initially, and she lived down the street from me. So it was her and her sister. And initially, I would always come by their house and, try to get noticed because, we never really talked or anything like that. And of course, I had to be friends with them first in order for them to feel like, I was cool enough to come to the house and get to know the younger sister anyway, because I felt like she was so gorgeous. I had to talk to her. At the time, she had like long flowing hair, and she wore the big jerseys and had the chains, and that's kind of what was in during that time. And eventually we did end up clicking, and my mother was fine with it because their father was a preacher. And so I started to get to know her, and just getting to know her as a person. She was really cool. We kind of hit it off. We liked each other, but there was kind of something in the way because her sister liked me as well. And so it was a situation where I was always being talked about or in a bad way or treated poorly, when really it was because I liked the younger sister and not the older sister. I just distinctively remember like different times where we would try to go do something, and she would prevent us from going to go do it. We tried to go to the movies, and she pulled up on us at the movies like, y'all better go back home or I'm telling on y'all, like I'm gonna tell what y'all are doing. And I'm just like, wow, I can't believe I'm in this kind of situation where she has control over that. And at that time initially, my mother knew nothing about that. And I didn't want anybody to know. Of course, neither one of us did. And so we had to, listen to what she had to say. And coincidentally, by me hanging around them and their father being a preacher, I went to their church. So we were always together. And there was also an adult that was around us, um, where she kind of like oversaw everything that we did, but never really, consulted with other parents about, the things that were going on. So we could be, we would go to her house and we'd be able to drink, we'd think smoke blacks, and we could do all these different things we wanted to do under her supervision because she's an adult and she's not going to tell. And so that was kind of my life, because of the things that I already experienced through my childhood, I really lived for acceptance. So if I wasn't accepted by somebody, then I looked at it like something's wrong with me. So the fact that I really wanted to be with the younger sister, and at the time I didn't really know that the older sister liked me. So I just want to put that in, like, now I realize what that is. And we, but I didn't really know that. So me wanting to be with the younger sister, but the older sister was always mean to me, or had mean things to say, or she would bring different girls around while I'm around to try to get her, get her sister's attention. We would go to retreats, and she would bring, other females that she felt like wanted to be with, Shorty, just to make me upset, or just to make me feel away. And at that time, as a kid, talking about like 14 and 15, that really, it hurt me. So we really couldn't have like a real relationship. And so I met somebody else, months later, and I pretty much put myself in two relationships where I was actually with somebody that I could like be out with, express my feelings with. I could go to her house, like we could hang out, we could do all these different things. And then, when I'm home, I'm over here with them, and I'm begging for acceptance. And either way, like with me wanting to be accepted within that group, because it was, when with me hanging with the two sisters, it was actually a group of us, maybe about seven of us, all collectively together, and most of us were in a group together. We danced and praise dance, things like that, and so we pretty much were tight. So I really felt like I needed to be like, nothing was wrong with me, but I was always made to feel like something was wrong with me within that group. So then me going outside of that and being with, my other girlfriend, and being in high school, and everybody's like, they love me, I was living two different lives, and I still was chasing that acceptance. Like, so I went wherever the acceptance was, but I still felt like I needed to be with this group, so that they could eventually accept me. I felt like, well, if this group of people think I'm cool, like, why can't this group of people, feel like I'm cool? So I have to stick around. And a part of me really did, as a kid, actually care for the younger sister. So I wanted to be around her. And it was a time where my younger cousin actually started to, we were like this, and we actually are not close anymore in any way. And so I brought her around. I brought her around, not thinking that, the older sister could use her against me, but eventually that's exactly what happened. And my cousin started having feelings for the younger sister as well. My cousin already knew that I was, dealing with two different people. So she was kind of looking at the situation as if, well, she didn't know everything that I had to go through. So she's looking at it like, well, you're dealing with this person, so, I can catch feelings for this young lady. And so, I mean, honestly, at the time, looking back at it, I guess I really should have stood up and said something, but I was going, I mean, I didn't. There were times where, like, all of us would be in the house, and we would all be in the younger sister's room, me, her, and my cousin, and them two would be, like, in the bed together. And I'd be, like, at the edge of the bed, and they're just, like, talking and, like, laughing, and I'm just, like, at the edge of the bed, like, upset. And I really can't explain to y'all, like, why I was even allowing that to happen at that age. Just like watching that, or even like, and just saying nothing, or just sticking around for it. I just cannot really explain it, but I did. And so um I developed like this huge insecurity within myself, and I felt like, okay, so she's, official, like she's having relations with my cousin, and are they together now, and she's trying to be with me. So even though I had something going on outside of what we had, I just didn't understand. I'm like, well, the only reason I'm doing that, initially it was like, I'm doing that because this is, not the ideal situation for me. Like, I feel miserable half of the time that I'm around. And there was a time, I just was easily manipulated. And so I just remember a time where the older sister brought me in her room, and she was just like, well, if you let me, I'm sorry, y'all. I told y'all I was gonna like really lay it out. I've never like really, a few people I've expressed it to, but she was just like, well, if you let me eat you out, if you lay down and you just let me taste it, I'll tell you what's happening with your cousin. I'll tell you what they're doing. And she was older than me, a lot older than me, and so I said okay. I just said okay, and I just lay back and I just put my hands over my eyes and I just let her do it. And she didn't even tell me anything. She didn't even tell me anything after. I just, like, if I'm being candid, like I remember busting a nut and everything, and I was like, I felt disgusted with myself, and she like laughed that because it happened. So like, and at that time, I never looked at that like, she took advantage of me sexually. I never even looked at it like that as a kid. But I do remember she didn't tell me, like she didn't even tell me any information. It was just like bullshit. So that happened a few times, actually. I felt like she had something over me, like I had to allow her to do that. And eventually when her sister found out, her sister kind of like turns it on me, like I really wanted her to be with the bigger sister, and it was really a big mess. And I tried to have a relationship with those individuals through my adulthood, but I had to kind of face it, like this is what happened, and I feel like this is what you did to me. And it's something that never really got validated. And when I remember just being within that group and the things that I allowed for myself to go through, and certain things that, like I said, the adult that was hanging around us knew that I was going through. Nobody ever reached out to my parents. Like, nobody ever said anything to my mom. I just kind of went through what I went through. And when I finally came out of it, the only way that I came out of it was because I moved away and I went to college. And I felt so free. I just felt like I could start my life over again. And, nobody in high school knew that I was experiencing that or going through that. Why would I tell them that? Why would I allow for anybody to know? I didn't even really know, to be honest with you. Like I said, just a few years ago, I really just came to terms with the fact that, I don't like to say it like rape, but I was taken advantage of. Like, that's not something that I wanted to do. That was a manipulating situation. And if I kick myself sometimes. Well, I used to kick myself because I felt like I was just weak, But I recognized that I also was a kid. So it's just, which I circle back from, even the first episode, and circling back from, the second episode, when I constantly say it's just important to be, not nosy, but just to be in your kids' lives and to really know what's going on with them, because and it can be hard, especially for people that are working, and you have to try to figure out how to balance that. But it's just so essential, because they could be living these different lives, and you don't even really know that that's happening. And I know some people could be looking at me like, well, nah, I know, well, I ain't never went through nothing like that, or you was just crazy. But I don't know, maybe I was, like maybe I did need some kind of psychological help at that time. But I know that when I became older, I went to get that kind of help, and I also, you know, just started to learn who I was as an individual, and just to recognize some of the things that I've been through, to say, hey, this is what happened to me, but like, and I recognize that this is why I probably allowed so many things throughout my adulthood with all my relationships, because I've always been chasing acceptance, whether it had been from a woman, a man, from friends. I'm talking about groups of people that I will try to stick myself with, instead of finding, people that I actually match with, or people that actually could accept me for who I am, instead of people that make me feel like something's wrong with me. And so, because I always chase the acceptance, I looked at it like there is something wrong with me. I keep getting rejected by these individuals, so something is wrong with me. And don't get me wrong, there were plenty of things that I could have changed and should have, and I have, and will probably continue to grow. Well, not probably, but I will continue to grow. But people just don't leave you for the most part when you're trying to go through that process. And so, I just recognize now that a lot of that stemmed from me being a child and really just continuously chasing being accepted, to the point where I would allow, for somebody to do anything with me that I genuinely in my heart didn't want to do. And so all I can do from those experiences is relate it back to say, I don't want my child going through that. I see what I had going on now. I know certain things that I can do for my children, my son and my daughter. Talks that I can have with them, that I know is better to have than to not have. That may be uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, it's essential in order for my kids to know how to stand up for themselves, how to be a leader and not a follower, how to be accountable, how to validate their feelings. Because, like I said, during that time, I just really didn't have that mentality. And it really, the mental toll I believe that situation took on me definitely carried into the relationship that I had, that I felt like was like my real relationship, because I didn't know how to handle certain abandonment. I didn't know how to handle when somebody wanted to leave me. I didn't know how to handle if, something didn't go exactly the way that I felt. I would have a meltdown. And it could be very toxic. Um, and I would just look at myself like it was the end of the world. Like I just didn't want to be here. Like I could just like roll over and just be gone that day. Like that's exactly how I would take things. So, and not only did this spill into that, but I went through like a lot of back and forth with that relationship. And then once that ended, my very last relationship was, I don't even, I really don't keep in contact with this individual, but it was like a whirlwind. I really put myself through so much just so I could be loved by somebody, by anybody at that time. And so to the point I moved away, went to Atlanta, then I started to come back, and I probably should have known that, or took some signs. I remember when I moved to Atlanta, I was place to place to place in Atlanta, couldn't get myself together, um, really didn't represent myself in the best way, left financial debts. Um, it was just a big mess. I was probably like 20 years old. I even like transferred my reserve station to Alabama. Um, Barely made those drill, and it was just a big mess up there because I was still trying to get back to Virginia so that I could hang with, you know, the female from my last relationship. And so, um, I think when did this happen? When did I decide I was gonna move back? I decided I was gonna move back to Virginia maybe around like February. This was like 2010. Yeah, about 2010. I decided I was gonna move back to Virginia, and I um I had till like April to go get the rest of my stuff out of my apartment in Atlanta. But I don't know. I went back like the end of March, and I probably had like two pairs of boots, and I had a closet full of clothes, so many pairs of earrings, necklaces, rings, shoes. I had so much. Like I took so much pride in my clothes back then too. And when I came back, the apartment was emptied. There were trash bags. My room was completely um, cleaned out. And yeah, I had two pairs of shoes. One was a pair of boots. I had a couple of blazers, some jeans, and a couple shirts. And that's all I had to work with to go back to move. And so I ended up needing to be with the young lady, and I moved into her place, and it was just a toxic environment. I put myself through unnecessary, it's like late nights and cheating, drugs. It was just endless, and I don't even know. I tried. I didn't feel like I could really like move back and be with my parents. I didn't feel like that was something that was best for me, especially at that time. So I really just put myself through a lot of unnecessary crap with her. And I mean, and then it was just crazy because, like, here we go where I'm like working with somebody, we're close, and Shorty Girl end up catching feelings for her. So now I gotta, and everybody's talking about it, but we still together. So I gotta deal with another situation where somebody else wants somebody else over me. And I'm just looking at myself like, what is wrong with me? And my face had broken out really bad. I just really was not taking care of myself. So I don't know, like certain things, when I look back at it, I just look like, wow, I never really gave myself a break. I never really, from childhood all the way up into my adulthood, I really never gave myself a chance to like love me, support myself, really talk to my parents and open up to them and tell them what I had going on. All, this might be some of the, this might be the first time that if my parents watch this, have heard any of it. And it's just because I didn't feel like I could. I didn't feel like I had that kind of outlet where I could come and speak to them and tell them this is what I have going on. This is what I've been doing because it's embarrassing. And even telling this to y'all, it's I had some reservations of being embarrassed because, I look like a damn fool. Why would I mean, I put myself through a lot of like unnecessary situations, and really, really hurt myself. And it even transferred into the relationship that I shared with my children's father, in which, we're definitely going to tap into that in later episodes. Not tonight. Not tonight. You're going to have to, that's going to be for my loyal followers. But I always put myself where I felt trapped. I felt trapped because I had to be a part. Well, I had to be accepted. And again, if I can't say it enough, if I was not accepted, then I just felt like it's because something's wrong with me. That's how I carried myself for a very long time, especially with my friendships. And with my friendships, um, you know, I always wanted to be that individual that like kept it real with them. I always wanted to be that person that, wanted to snap them into reality. And I'm still kind of that person, but more humbled. And I felt like I could do that because I've been through so much. But sometimes I think when when you're still going through things and you're telling people about themselves through things, it's like, well, how you gonna tell me? And you got this going on, you got that going on. And I really can't tell you. I just know I used to do that because I just always been the individual to see it, like just to call it how I see it. And just because I'm going through it, like I might know that I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do. I'm not gonna act like I don't understand it. And I've just always been that friend that wants you to understand it. And that hasn't gone well for me in a lot of cases. And so instead of me backing up from certain situations and just calling it quits, I've always felt like, well, I'm just gonna keep extending myself and extending myself, and I'm gonna prove this to this person. And I'm gonna keep proving that I'm a good person. I'm gonna keep proving to you that I deserve to, have love. I'm gonna prove to you that, I was one of the best friends that you had. You know, I don't even know if I had told y'all this, but I do like remember just even a specific situation with a friend where, my son was 24 weeks when he was I was 24 weeks when he was born. He was born in Riverside, and he was 1 pound 14 ounces. He had 4 blood transfusions, and I had 2 surgeries after having him. We both almost died. And I remember being in the bed after having surgery, my second surgery, and my homegirl calls me. She's like my one of my best friends, and we don't talk anymore, but I definitely still love her, like most people that I've encountered. But she called me, and she was crying. I mean, like really, really crying, like something was wrong. And in my mind, initially, I was thinking like it's probably maybe she doing that because she knows what's going on. She heard what's happening, but she was like, basically she found out that her child's father and her baby and her boyfriend at the time had brought another girl in her home, and she was really devastated by it. And I sat on that phone with her and like was trying to be there for her while I'm just came out of surgery. My son is 1 pound 14 ounces in the NICU, about to have I think his first blood transfusion, and I'm on the phone trying to be there for somebody. Um, and I felt like, well, if I do that, she's gonna know that like that's what a real friend would do. And like just looking back at it now, like I don't think that well, not even I don't think like that's not even something that I really wanted to entertain at the time. I mean, that's something important. That's but like right there, then and there, that probably shouldn't have been the focus for me. And so setting those boundaries, like I just didn't have boundaries, and I just felt like it. I just needed to always do something to prove myself, and none of that stuff mattered in the end. None of it mattered in the end. You being there for people, or trying to be a good person, it really is not cliche to say like when you do those things, you have to do it out of really out of authenticity and being genuine, because you really can't expect for people to understand you or to hold that and say, well, that because of those things you just, I'm going to keep you around. And so again, it really just relates back to that whole piece of just always needing to be accepted. And I don't know, people out there that maybe are going through that, or maybe you keep running into walls with people because you feel like people are turning on you, or you've done this and that, because I see people on Facebook, well, when I can scroll um, through there, sometimes I'll see people like, I do this and I do that, and nobody support, or they don't be there, or and you see stuff like that, and it's just like, wow, you can identify, but at the same time you really have to learn how to just really do things out of authenticity, set those boundaries, and don't do it because you're trying to prove a point that you're a good person. Because being a good person is unspoken. That's a aura, that's a vibe, that's just who you're gonna be, and you don't have to prove it to the people that that know you. So if you're around a bunch of people that can't accept you, don't appreciate you, then you remove yourself from that situation. You don't ask yourself why. You're gonna drive yourself nuts. You're gonna drive yourself nuts trying to figure out why somebody don't appreciate you. It don't matter. It don't matter. You gotta bounce. You gotta do what's mentally sane for you. And you're gonna spend a decade. You're gonna turn around, a decade gonna be spent. You wasted it trying to gain acceptance, and you lost out on friendships that you could have built that whole time with people that actually would have accepted you. You lost out on memories, and I dropped out of college because I was chasing love, trying to be accepted. I was really creative. I was a great dancer. I made I made dance line at Elizabeth City. I made dance line at Virginia State. I could have, built something really good, and I didn't, chasing, love, chasing acceptance. So you really have to look at yourself and say, am I a good person? And if you are, why do I feel the need to prove it to people that don't appreciate it? That's kind of what the point of this was tonight, what the point of this episode was tonight, to really lay in on and close the foundation of episode 2, where I was introduced to the gay scene, and I felt like I was a lesbian, but really throughout all of this, it was just a chase for acceptance. And because I said it, in the second episode, but I genuinely felt like I never was a lesbian. I keep getting all these notifications about the Lakers right now. I don't even know what's going on, y'all, but I just keep getting distracted. I'm sorry. Oh man, I gotta see what's going on, I guess. But yeah. but yeah, and that's why this episode 3 is called From the Surface, because from the surface, I don't feel like anybody really could tell that I was experiencing any of these things, or that I had any of these things going on, or that mentally I felt like I was not well. From the surface, it looked like, oh, she's a cheerleader, she cool, but people that were involved with me as far as relationship wise and outside of that, they probably could attest to say, yeah, something was wrong. You know what I mean? But just a regular associates and things like that, no, you just wouldn't know. And that's why it really is important to check in on people as well, because you just really, really don't know what's going on the inside, when people really, for the most part, are only going to show you the surface of things. And I was able to walk out from my last relationship, but honestly, it took that person going to jail. So it always took something major for me to be able to walk away, for me to be able to break free into my next chapter. And I always found myself, after I'm breaking away from one thing, not healing from that and placing myself into something else, carrying all them same demons, carrying all them that baggage, and habits that were not good for me, and not really dealing with that. And so, I want to encourage people as well, when you leave a situation, take time for you. Take time for yourself to get to know you, to figure out what you did wrong in those situations. Be accountable for the part that you played in hurting yourself. Because I'll give you the first time. I'll even give you the second time, because you want to give people chances. You want to be able to, and I'm going to talk about that in later episodes. You want to give them chances, and you want to see the good, and you want to say, all right, I know they learned their lesson. But after the third and the fourth and the fifth, you're doing it to yourself. They've already showed you what's going to happen. They already told you what's going to happen. You know, they could come to you and they could say, you know, oh, it's going to change. And sometimes they don't even have to say it's going to change. They just come into your life and expect for things to pick back up. And you right there like, well, yep, here you go. We're going to pick it back up. And you're going to get the same thing every time. And I think that's where I went wrong too in a lot of friendships, because when my friends come to me, and that's how I am now, like, don't come to me trying to act like you ain't do something to yourself. Don't come to me acting like you didn't know that little Johnny was about to play your face. Don't do that. Now, if you want to cry and you want to, you know, vent, we going to do that. We going to do all of that. But we going to come up with the solution as to how we going to stop this from happening, because it's important. It's important to take accountability over your life and how you allow people to treat you. It speaks, you know, your actions and what you do shape how people decide they're going to treat you. And I definitely am a product of that, allowing people to treat me any kind of way because I was treating myself any kind of way. So, again, that really was the purpose of tonight. And I hope that I could encourage somebody anyway, that could possibly be feeling like, you know, nobody really cares about me, or every time that I give my all, they let me down. You know, your value is just not based upon what somebody feels about you or what they think about you. The time at the when you decide that you want more for yourself and you want to raise your standards, and you take a piece of paper and write down how you want to be treated. Like, people think that that's like childish, but it's not. Take a piece of paper and say and write down, like, what do you want from a man? What do you want from a woman? What are those things? What do you want out of a friend? And then line it up with the people that are in your life. And if it don't look right, then you start subtracting those people from out of your life. What's wrong with that? Or have a conversation and say, this is what I need. This is what I feel like I bring to the table, you know, and this is what I need you to bring to the table. And if they can't do that, what's wrong with taking those people out of your life? Because those people more than likely won't think twice before they take you out of their life. So, don't base your value off of the way that somebody is treating you, because that's all stemming from you. So, you know, love yourself first is extremely important. That's what I try to teach to the young ladies at this time. And it's a practice. You have to continuously practice loving yourself. You gonna make mistakes. I make mistakes. We gonna talk about some of them mistakes for sure, the adulthood mistakes. But I wanted everyone to understand within these first few episodes, really and honestly, how things started for me. How I cause once I get deep, I'm gonna get deep, and I just need y'all to understand it just came from needing to be accepted, from needing to have love, and not loving myself. And so when you're not doing that for a long time, when you spend decades not loving yourself, you just don't start loving yourself like that. It's like something that is gradual. So you really are gonna make mistakes, but just because you make those mistakes doesn't mean that you can't share your experience with people. It doesn't mean that you can't teach somebody else something that you went through, so they don't have to go through it. And you don't have to allow people to bombard you with your past or your present mistakes, as long as you're always trying to grow. Don't let people shut you up. And that's my point. And I'm definitely not going to allow nobody to shut me up. We're going to wrap it up, though, tonight, y'all. As always, I'm so grateful for Loud, Powered by Virginia, the family. I really, really can't express enough how grateful I am. How grateful I am to everybody that checks me out, all the people that hit me with the playbacks, that watch, that, you know, have encouraging words. Y'all, please come, Powered by Virginia, come follow, come like. It's a lot of other dope episodes and shows and individuals that have a lot to offer, and I know that y'all probably be feeling it. I definitely have a lot of catching up to do. So thank y'all again. Y'all have a great night. I Said What I Said podcast with Janelle Irene, aka the Black Nefertiti, and I love y'all.
Powered by Virginia Radio.